Good morning to everyone joining us. I know there are folks from all over the world, literally. My name is Don Berger, and before I get started and kick us off, I just want to welcome everybody from the Pacific Northwest. Good morning to you, and good evening to those in Israel. Baruch haba, bruchim habayim, shalom lekulam. Welcome to the first ever Idaho Meets Israel AgTech Showcase. My name is Don Berger, and I'm an Israeli-American entrepreneur that lives in Boise, Idaho. Can tell by my hat, although right now I'm in New York City. When I first moved into Idaho, I was struck by how much Idaho and Israel had in common. Both economies are rooted in agriculture. Many of you don't know that when Israel was first established, there was nothing but deserts and swamps. But when all these pioneers and colonizers came from all over the world to settle Israel, they actually created farmland. Apart from the fact that both economies are rooted in agriculture, both populations have a pioneering spirit and an independent mindset. Both places have dry desert conditions where temperatures are high and water can be scarce. As an Idahoan, I want to see our economy thrive. As an Israeli, I want to see startups from Israel succeed abroad. This is why I came up with the idea of creating a free virtual showcase for Israeli agtech companies to share their world-class innovation with Idahoan farmers, growers, ranchers, and agriculture professionals. Welcome again to each of you. Before we begin, I'd like to thank a few people who made today possible. Governor Brad Little, who you'll hear from very soon, and Consul General Shlomi Kaufman. Governor Little, I've gotten to know over the past year, and he's been an incredible supporter to the Jewish population of Idaho, even though it's a little small, and to Israel as a country. I also want to thank the folks at GrowinIL, and Shira Eating for her help. She and Orly over from Vintage have been so helpful to me in identifying key companies. I also want to welcome Rick Nairbaugh from the Dairymen's Association, who's helped us get a lot of folks. And finally, I want to give my biggest thanks to Rick Waitley from AMG Idaho. Without him, this wouldn't have been possible, because when I reached out to Rick, we only had about 30 RSVPs, and today we have 150. And a special welcome to all the folks from leadership in Idaho agriculture. I know there are many alum here, and it seems like a great program that I'm excited to learn more about. And finally, before we get started, I just want to thank my team of volunteers. Yes, you heard it right, volunteers. We have no financial interest in any of the companies that are here. And first and foremost, Rabbi Mendelschitz, my rabbi from Chabad, Idaho. Evie Mayer, who's responsible for Eviatar, who's been responsible for bringing on so many incredible startups, and Addie Waxman, who's educated us and helped us reach a lot of the agricultural community in Idaho. And finally, my partner in crime, our event producer, Anka Treefan from Treefan Events. I met Anka when I first moved to Idaho, and coming from the events industry, I wanted to meet all the event producers in Idaho. And let me tell you, she's the top one. I'm so excited to have her support. She is so special. And with that, I want to let you hear from Governor Brad Little, the governor of Idaho.
Hi, I'm Idaho Governor Brad Little. Congratulations on hosting and attending the first ever Idaho Meets Israel AgTech Showcase. Agriculture is the single largest contributor to Idaho's economy, accounting for 18% of Idaho's total economic output. We are thrilled to continue our successful relationship with Israel-based companies in the agricultural sector and beyond. It is through these partnerships that we advance technology, increase production, reduce waste, and help feed the world. Congrats again and enjoy your showcase.
Hello friends in Idaho and in Israel. Good morning, good afternoon. It's so good to be with you. I'm pleased to join you today to showcase some of the most truly innovative agtech startups and the latest technology for agriculture. Both Idaho and Israel understand full well that agriculture is a vital industry that impacts every nation, every community, and every person. But as we all know, the agricultural industry faces some very difficult challenges, such as water scarcity, maximizing efficiency to reduce waste, and maximize access to agricultural products, improving sustainability in a time of uncertainty, and so much more. Overcoming these difficult challenges in agriculture translates into thriving business and thriving communities. Idaho and Israel understand this because we share the common spirit of innovation and necessity. We both have economies deeply rooted in agriculture, and we experience the same challenges. We also know that by working together, we can collaborate on new agtech and grow our agriculture industries to better meet the needs of our communities. I'm proud that this virtual showcase of Israeli companies has been convened to share Israel's world-class innovation with Idaho's thriving ag industry. Thank you to the organizers and sponsors for this event, and thank you for the startups and participants that are joining us today. Have a fantastic event.
Thank you to Governor Little and Council General Kaufman. I want to bring in my co-organizer, Evie Mayer from UMake, the CEO of UMake. They're an awesome free, also paid, but free making and creation tool for the iPad that does incredible work in 3D. Evie, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Dan. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm so excited. I grew up in a moshav, in a small village in the southern part of Israel. My parents are farmers. My grandfather has a dairy, so I'm very connected to this whole industry. And I'm very excited to bring the innovative companies you will see today, sharing their products, their experience and knowledge with Idaho. I live in Boise for 2 years, and it feels like home. Super amazing people, very friendly, hardworking, and dedicated to their craft. And I think this is a great opportunity to bring these two cultures and bring these two great minds together to collaborate, to exchange knowledge and ideas. And I hope you'll enjoy it. A big thank you for the team that Dan mentioned, which are all volunteers and doing it from a great aspiration about Israel and about Idaho, which we love both. And I would love to welcome Chen from GrowinIL. Chen helped a lot in connecting us to the Israeli startups and companies you will see today. So thank you very much, Chen. And I'll let Chen introduce herself.
Okay. Hi and good evening on this side of the world. My name is Chen. I'm the community manager at GrowinIL. And I'm very excited to be here, and thank you, Dan and Evie, for this wonderful opportunity. So today I'll present a brief overview of GrowinIL, who we are, and our activities to promote the agtech field in Israel. So GrowinIL is Israel's official agtech community. The next slide, our impact in numbers. As you can see, we were founded in 2018. We have over 5,200 members and so on. GrowinIL is a government initiative. The next slide, please. Of the Israel Innovation Institute, the Israel Innovation Authority, the Ministry of Economy, and the Ministry of Agriculture. Our vision is to support the growth of the Israeli agtech sector, is to position Israel as a global innovation center for agtech, to accelerate the development and adoption of new technology to address the world food crisis. The next slide, the GrowinIL community was created with the understanding that startups are not created in a void. Our job is to bring the different members together in order to create a supportive environment for innovation to grow. By bringing the different members, we don't just mean startups, but we mean investors and academia, agribusinesses, government, NGOs, and we bring them to the different opportunities for knowledge sharing, networking, and collaboration. The next slide is just some of our partners in the past and in the present. Exactly, so how do we do this? So we operate in two main strategic channels. The first one is ecosystem development. So we have events, from investor events to practical workshops to the AgriVest, which is the part of Israel's Agri-Food Week, which will take place this year from November 6th to 10th in Tel Aviv. If anybody's interested in learning more about it, please feel free to reach out to us. In the next slide, you'll see the different tools we have in order to help the entrepreneurs in our ecosystem. We have an investors map with over 100 funds, and we have a mentoring program. And if anybody wants to learn more, please feel free to come to visit our website. The next one is virtual community. So the purpose of the virtual community is to allow the community members to interact with each other, is to share agtech news, events, and opportunity on a daily basis. The next part is connections. We try to meet all the different members of the ecosystem to understand their needs and to connect them to relevant sources that will take their business forward, whether it's from investors to R&D partners in Israel and abroad, strategic partners. In the next slide is the second strategic channel, which is open innovation processes. So we create tailor-made processes in order to connect startups to the industry, in order to bring collaborations such as POC, pilots, and more. So here you can just see some of the previous processes we've had. In the next slide, to sum up, so GrowinIL is the gateway to Israel's agtech ecosystem. It's in order to connect global entities such as this event to relevant technologies. We create events and shared opportunities and tailor-made innovation processes. And thank you very much to all the presenting, and good luck to all the presenting startups. And it's great to be here. Thank you.
Toda rabba, Chen. Thank you very much, Chen. It was interesting. Before this got started, we were in the green room and we said, how do you pronounce your name? Is it Chen? Is it Hen? Is it Chen? So I think it depends on whether you can say the Ch or not.
So it's Chen, yeah.
Toda, Chen. Thank you, Chen. Okay, up next, we're going to go to, I'm just getting word from my producers here, whether Ophir is on or not from Taranis. Okay, we're going to go over to SeeTree. Before we do that, however, I want to just quickly share a couple of fun facts. So Israel has the most PhDs per capita out of any other country and the most Nobel laureates out of any other country. So you can see why innovation comes from that country. But we rely on places like Idaho in order to buy it because it's so tiny. And with that, I want to welcome Israel Talpaz from SeeTree. So Israel is one of the first people I met when I started planning this, and he was so kind to me because he was like, I'll sign up, I'll do it. So thank you, Israel, for being here. And the floor is yours. Share with us what SeeTree does.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much. My name is Israel Talpaz. I'm the CEO and co-founder of SeeTree. And it's a pleasure and honor to present today, to meet with all of you. Thank you for this opportunity. So SeeTree is all about trees. We specialize in optimizing trees with intelligence. A word about my background. My background is 33 years in intelligence, in the intelligence world. I retired 5 years ago from that world, but my family background is in farming. And I really wanted to combine the two together. And that's what SeeTree is all about. We optimize tree growth with intelligence. That means data that we collect, analyze, and package to guide growers' actions. The problem we're addressing is that the quality of data that growers of trees have is very, very low. It is personal, too personal, too manual, too inaccurate, insufficient, and very, very analog. Farmers will just not be able to meet the needs that for food and for sustainability that they have to meet in order to get where we need to go. We aim to really transform tree farming with this kind of data. We take the personal and make it big data. We take the manual and make it automated. And we take the analog and make it digital. Everything is very, very accurate, very technology-based, and very comprehensive. How do we do all of this? We run a campaign. We collect data, multiple layers. We use drones and planes and satellite imagery. We have a ground vehicle. And we also have scouts that go on the ground to verify and check the findings that we have. We need to combine all of this data because trees are very complicated. And this unique combination enables us to be sufficient, comprehensive, and accurate enough for the farmers. It is all based, the analysis is all based on a unique combination of machine learning, artificial intelligence capabilities, a very, very strong team that we've assembled on this, over 50 data scientists, and coupled together with human experts, agronomists, and farm experts that teach the machines and teach the data scientists what we need to find. So how does this look? We provide the farmers, after we fly over their farms, which we can do between 3 to 5 times a year, we show them dashboards of their farms. As you can see right here, you see the exact number of trees, you see the division of trees into healthy, not underperforming and non-producing, and it really quickly directs the farmers where they need to go and where they need to focus on and improve their farming situation. Here is a grove level. When you go from the farm level, you go down deep into a grove, and you can see here a problematic grove. Again, you see the everything is color coded and easy to understand. You see the amount of trees on the left-hand side and how many are underperforming and non-producing. See the numbers. The numbers are astonishing, but we're seeing this all over the world in every place that we farm. Even very, very high quality farms have these kinds of numbers. The farmers are always surprised, but this is the reality that they face. Each tree here is like a production unit in a factory, and it should be optimized as you would in a factory. You wouldn't leave a broken machine in a factory room. You'd either replace it or fix it, get it moving, and that's what we target them. Here's the tree level. You can go all the way down to a specific tree. This tree, that's the name on the top left-hand side. It's digital. It's a digital entity. It's in, you can see its history. You can see all of the parameters. And over time, we have a lot of parameters enabling the farmers to fix the trees, clusters, groves, and even the farm itself. We also measure tree sizes. Sizes matters here as well, okay? Height, for instance, it affects the sunlight that the trees get, so you need to cut them at a certain point. It affects the spraying that you apply for the different areas. Huge savings can be gained here, and good environmental results as well. Managing sizes. Here we show how we can really save between 20 to 70%, 70% on the amount of spray that is applied in certain areas. Huge amounts. We also count the fruit on the trees months before harvest time. This really important fruit heat map enables farmers to understand what is their yield going to be, enabling them to plan the marketing side, the pricing side of their operations, plan the harvest, as well as understand the good producing areas and the weak producing areas, enabling them to learn and optimize their actions as they go forward. This is a unique capability that we have. And now we are also addressing trees' important role in combating climate change. Trees have the best technology there is, photosynthesis, where they capture carbon from the air and store the carbon in the wood. They really play an important role in cutting down greenhouse gas emissions. We know how to measure this, and we know how to help developers of reforestation projects and those that are looking to get carbon credits and market them in the very important market that is emerging right now. Again, the same part of our platform and a new crop for us as we move forward. So just to sum up, SeeTree, 4.5-year-old company, really backed by great players, the World Bank, Kubota machinery company, Netafim from Israel, great VCs that have joined us. We're over 100 employees strong today, over 100 million trees that we've covered, working in 5 countries, as you can see, and we're just starting. Thank you very much, everybody.
Question from the audience about the data that is stored online on the cloud, and how secure is it, and how you don't transfer that type of data to any other third party or anything like that?
Thank you for the question. So we have a very, very strong team that are also experts in the cyber field. So we have a strong platform that is a cloud-based, Google-based platform, but it's really fenced off between the different customers. We put a lot of effort into this, that we don't make mistakes this way, and every customer can see only their part, and it is really strongly enforced platform.
And I assume the servers are located in the States, in the United States, and
yes, some of them, yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So our next guest is Ophir from Taranis.
Hello.
Hi, Ophir.
Good morning. Hi, good morning. Great to be here. Thanks, Evie and Dan. Okay, so thanks, Israel, also for kind of setting the stage, because there's a lot of kind of similarities between Taranis and SeeTree. I would say that, you know, Taranis is doing a lot of this same precision scouting and helping growers and advisors, but for anything, I think, other than trees and indoor and greenhouse, basically any field crop out there. So we really think, you know, Taranis is, as you'll see in the presentation, kind of what we do is what growers really deserve and the trusted advisors really need. So if you're thinking today about an advisor to a grower, and usually have 20 growers that they're looking after, and each one will have 20, 30 fields sometimes. So what's really preventing them from achieving better results and higher quality service to these growers? So we're thinking you probably want to cover more acres at more speed and create more opportunities for the growers to be more profitable and add more services, very valuable services to you as a retailer. So Taranis is offering a full service model. We really built the network for data acquisition. We have over 130 drones out there. Each one is covering a 50-mile diameter circle, and we can take care of data acquisition, really collect really high quality content about each plant in the field, and then go on to analyze it and drive it to action. So in the analysis side, we have 20 different AI engines that can analyze over 400 different types of problems. So imagine AI engine and automated agronomist in the sense that it can identify 100 different types of weed species, do a stand count, look at nutrition deficiencies across the season, and help do all these different kind of analytics. And we drive it towards action, which really means we show the signal of demand from the plants or the soil to the growers and their trusted advisor. And they can really decide on a course of action on time and be able to fix the problem early, save a lot of money, and improve yields overall. And of course, for the trusted advisors, now they can really service the acres in a very data-driven way. They can really, you know, first thing in the morning, see the list of 500 fields that they want to cover for growers and really know where they need to act right now, what kind of problems persist there, how severe, and did they need to write any prescriptions or make any recommendations there. And then even when it's time for any kind of spray or application in the field, we can take the maps from our system and directly send it to a spray drone, spray tractor, or a crop duster. So really closing the loop. You can go to the next slide. So we call it Smart Scout because we really offer unmatched clarity in broad acre coverage, and we deliver AI-driven insights. So you can, we manage today over 100 customers. 70 of them are in the US. They're all co-ops and ag retailers. So basically what we offer them, they can load in all their locations, all their sales agronomists, all the growers' acres, and start managing it. So location by location, field by field, you can really start managing it agronomically and see all the different things that you need to act on immediately. So show some examples. Taranis Connect is the way mostly our clients consume the data. We co-brand it for each one of the sales team, on the retailers and the co-ops. So basically, we are here for our customers, for these retailers. Their name is out there, along with just powered by Taranis. And it's, again, matched by each location, sales agronomist, grower, and all their fields, and driven by priority. So you can easily prioritize where to have stand counts early in the season, where to have a lot of weeds, and what kind of types of weeds out there. And later in the season, it's a lot about the insect damage and crop diseases, nutrition deficiencies. So really make sure we provide really high quality engagement with the growers every week to really discuss the things that matter and decide a course of action immediately. So we can go next. So let's see a few of the use cases. So early in the season, we want to know if we're off to a good start or if any fix is needed, like a replant or adjusting nutrition based on actual plant population. So we do stand counts on steroids. We really count hundreds of points in the field, a lot more than what normally an agronomist would have time for, or a grower would have time for, and count every single plant, identify the rows, and do an accurate stand count. And that's a really good way to start. You get a glimpse for really the rest of the season and fix problems just a week after planting. You already know exactly where you stand. The other one is weed detection. So again, early in the season already, even in this sized plants, you can see cotyledon stage even, and later on we can differentiate different species of weeds, understand the severity, the density, the coverage. So quite a robust system for weed detection. As with growing problems with weed resistance, I think this is very, very important. And it's always a lot of competition for the crop. Another one of the main use cases is nutrition deficiencies. We can confirm problems. So if the crops present any visual symptom of a nutrition deficiency, and we scan the whole field so we understand the context, if it's, we differentiate if it's a disease or nutrition and so on, which type of nutrition deficiency. So this could be a step before recommending any tissue sample or soil sample in the off season, or even in season treatment sometimes if it's the right timing for it. So we try to run all these engines every week that we fly over the field. But of course, different problems are important in different stages, so we can focus our attention there. And then insect damage. So our resolution, as you can see, all the images really from the system, you can see we can have enough resolution to even count the insect damage on the leaf level, right? Any one of these bounding boxes over there are actually feeding on the leaf. It's a huge problem, right? And it's really, there's an economic threshold when it's worth doing something or we're just waiting. It's not always worth to do a spray. So we don't take that into account and really track every time we fly over, really identify what is the insect damage and did it cross a threshold to do something about it. And the last one is disease detection. So knowing really if there's enough symptoms out there that justify a fungicide application. This is one where we detected a gray leaf spot on corn. We detected a lot of it last season, especially in Kansas, and we allowed the growers to increase their yields by $40 an acre on this corn, just by applying it at the right time compared to what they would otherwise do if they detected it too late. So let's talk a bit on how we deliver. So we are originally an Israeli company, still half the company, the AI side, some of the engineering is done in Israel, but really the heart of the company headquarters moved to the US. We're now in close to Indianapolis, in Westfield, Indiana. That's where our headquarters is. So most of our team, the client-facing team, our customer success, sales, account managers, marketing, a lot of the product operations are all in market. Okay, so as I mentioned, we needed a lot of data to be able to do this at such high precision. We actually collected in the last 6 years over 200 million AI data points. Each one is these boxes with symptoms, and we had 180 agronomists really verifying every single point and checking if our annotation is correct. And really, that's how a good AI software could learn. It needs to learn from experts. So these 180 agronomists really helped train the system to what it is today. And now we have the infrastructure to continue doing this. For instance, adding a lot more crops and problems in a very, very short time. So today we still focus mostly on corn, soybean, cotton, and sugarcane, but we're really excited to go into additional areas, especially looking at Idaho now and thinking about the important crops in this region. Some overlap and some we want to get into it. And we already collected some data sets, for instance, for potatoes, sugar beets, and many other crops. So this technology definitely applies there too. It's part of the 200 million AI data points. So just kind of takeaways, we really think we bring differentiation to precision ag, really collecting this hard to get content that would really serve the grower and the trusted advisor, and bring scale to the farm. So we really try to always cover the whole farm and really point out where attention is needed. And then more targeted solutions can be applied there. And we offer real-time engagement. So we make sure we kind of deliver these insights on a silver platter, and the trusted advisor can really talk to the grower on time, where it really counts, and they can together think about the right solution. That's what we enable. And the whole concept of our Taranis Connect app is really the connection and sharing these insights quickly and very visually. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ophir. Toda rabba, Ophir. I have a couple questions for you from the audience. Before I do that, I just want to thank the Idaho Technology Council. Jay Larson and Moshe Herman have both been great from there, and they're a co-partner of ours, as is Kosher Idaho. So we have a kosherizing organization in Idaho, and the rabbi will speak about it later. Ophir, two questions. Number one, when you think about the desert specifically, how can your technology be used for crops that may be more common in Idaho as opposed to somewhere else?
Yeah, of course. So I think with the more intensive, high-value crops being grown in Idaho, I'm definitely sure that we need to offer new kind of plans in corn. Really, we have to be in any crop, we have to be very cost-effective. So in corn and soybean, we'll usually do plans with 5 drone missions over the course of the season, at very specific time points. So it turns like every 3 weeks or so in the season. I think in high-value crops like potatoes, sugar beets, there will be a need for more intensive scouting too. Same as being done manually today. So our capabilities really allow us to do that. With a network of drones, we can also do it a lot more frequently if needed.
Got it. And I also understand that you guys have the largest collection of this kind of data set in the world. Is that true?
Yeah, definitely. So the 200 million symptoms that came from 3.5 million pictures, each one representing a large portion of the field at very, very high resolution, the sub-millimeter resolution, and really went through and annotated each one of those leaves in those pictures.
And I understand you're a turnkey solution, but can people do this? How much handholding do they need? And do you anticipate that decreasing over time as technology becomes more consumerized?
Yeah, so today in 95% of cases, we really fly over all the acres. We have some clients who want to do the hybrid model and fly a little bit on their own just to have that flexibility if there's something urgent coming up. But the massive amount of acres, we always cover for them. And that's what they like, really. The experience owning drones before, the experiencing dedicating some people from their team or splitting the time of their sales agronomy team. And that means they have less time really engaging with the customer and focusing on solutions that the customer needs. And they really like the fact that now they can just get the data flowing every morning, and they can focus on the solutions.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on all your success. Thanks to you. And I think it was Mike who have been super helpful, and take care. All right. So before we kick it off to the next presenters, I just want to mention that one thing that I was really impressed on the SeeTree presentation is that they raised $45 million. When I had my company, Social Tables, we only raised 30. So I guess they're doing something better than what I did back in the day. But then again, with inflation, maybe it's the same number. Next up is BW Robotics. We have, I think, Ben Alfie. BW Robotics stands for Blue-White Robotics. And blue-white is the color of Israel. So it's very fitting that their startup is named as such. And I am very excited about their presentation because I've been tracking this company for quite some time and very excited to welcome it. Welcome, Ben.
Welcome. How are you guys?
Good, thank you.
Okay, so good to see you, and I'm very happy to be here, and I hope we can do good things all together. Our company is 5 years old, and our main values are fellowship, love of the land, and innovation, and I hope with sharing and caring for each other, we bring good things, and we should overcome any bad things that are happening in the world. And I think we all need to be more optimistic and working together as much as possible. Just as a company snapshot, we are 5 years old, and we have been funding over $50 million with the main leaders of the ecosystem here in Israel. And we have workers from all the industries covering what we're doing today. And our experience is more than 10,000 autonomous driving hours and others. And would be happy to share with you what we're doing here.
The world is
making sure that you can hear what is being presented.
Our diet is changing, and more people need to eat healthy food in a reasonable price. We are at the era where instead of tractor drivers or pilots, we're going to drone operators and robot operators. Blue-White Robotics was established to help industries go with the revolution of autonomy by enabling autonomous capabilities today and not just tomorrow.
We figured out that agriculture is the most suitable industry to adopt autonomous technologies on large scale today. Our solution is built on 3 pillars. First, the robot that can be installed in any existing tractor and operate in any permanent crop. Second is our software platform that enables to operate to manage the fleet in optimized way, collect data and distribute it. The platform is built to work with any kind of robot. And the third pillar is the service. We believe that the adoption process is key.
So, as we're talking about autonomous in agriculture and dilemmas and a lot of things talked about labor shortage and yield prediction, here we are coming from entering the biggest problem of labor shortage and accurate operation of autonomous capabilities. And what do? We take any type of vehicle, doesn't matter which color you have, and transform it to autonomous. With the sensor fusion and AI, we work in areas with no GPS and in very dense areas such as vineyards, orchards, working day, night, winter and summer. What also we do is while those vehicles are running, they collect data and they are being distributed to companies like we just saw, and also to end users who need the data to get more field data understanding, if it's for operation or for yield prediction. The last thing is the adoption phase, okay? The way how to create this adoption, mainly with enabling us together with you, working together on site, doing on-job training, teaching the operators of today how to operate the autonomous vehicle, in a way that can create 21st century working systems. This is how we see the 21st century sustainable farming with the blue-white robotics. You have the aftermarket kit on one side and tractors that do all types of implements, whether it's spraying, mowing, disking, herbicide, anything that is needed on the ground level, and on the high level, data management and implementing more and more applications such as infield data collection and distribution to companies, and also farm robotics, where we are connecting at the back of those tractors. We are moving other robots, such as companies that you've seen here, to make their operation more and more efficient. Basically, seamless adoption, accessible and with a subscription model that gives you a return on investment from day one. It's less than the labor that is being paid or needed to operate it. It's operating with no limitations and in a very accurate way. So this is what we see. We are mainly today working in California. We're going up north, Oregon and Washington at the end of this year, and also going to Washington. It would be also great to come over to Idaho and see how can we work together. So that's on my side, if you have any questions.
Hi. Yeah, we actually have a question about everything's going on right now with the supply chain issues. How does that affect, your company or the hardware industry in general at the moment?
So first of all, supply chain, mainly the main thing that we've done with supply chain is to make sure that we are agnostic to any type of sensors. So we can enable whatever sensor is available. It's not a certain LiDAR or not a certain camera. So the amount of capabilities is much larger. Edge computing, we're working with top leading brands such as Intel. We're working closely in creating edge computing that is suitable for rural areas. In that way, we get the ability to get more and more computers in advance, and we are stacked up. We have an assembly line in Turk in Fresno, and that's about it.
Fresno, California. Yeah.
Yes.
Sounds good. Thank you so much. So our next guest is Amit from AgriTask. Hi, Amit.
Hi, how are you?
Great, thank you.
Great.
Take the stage.
Great. So, as I said, pleasure to be here. I'm really happy to present. I'm the COO of AgriTask. AgriTask developed an agronomic management platform to manage all the agronomic operations end-to-end across both the grow operation, but across also the supply chain. So work also with the food and beverage companies or the ag buyers that buy from the different growers in order to provide a predictable and sustainable agri-food supply chain across the entire traceability from the farm to the factory. If you can go to the next slide, please. So we see it like my previous speakers talk that agriculture is the last and by far the largest sector going to be digitalized. We're talking about worldwide over $500 billion of yield loss and over $200 billion of near farm waste. And we believe that a lot of this has happened because of the lack of visibility to know exactly what's going on in the field and understand what's going on in every and each stage of your operation in order to be able to implement best practices, to be able to make much better data-driven decisions. What we provide is an agronomic intelligence tool. That what's unique about it, first of all, it's built not to solve a specific pain point, but as an enterprise level solution that can cover the entire growth cycle end to end across all the different aspects of agronomy, if it's irrigation, fertilization, spraying, managing your field operations, managing the growth stage of the of the crop. So the system can work with any type of size of client and can bring a real enterprise solution. We have clients today that have over hundreds of thousands of growers inside the system. And another thing that's unique about the system is that it's very, very flexible. The idea of the system is to be able to adapt the system to the specific workflows of our clients in order to make it much more adaptable to your operations. The second thing, as I said, we're end-to-end. So we provide full visibility across all the operations and are able to give, because we have all the data, actionable insights on the day-to-day decisions that you need to make, everything based on the actual data from the field. And the last thing is that we're very, very open for integrations. We've done until today over 70 different integrations, but the idea is to provide what we call a one platform, one database solution that enables to integrate data from many, many different data sources into one platform. So you have only all your information in one system to be able to analyze, to be able to cross data analysis from all this data in order to better manage your operations. And this, of course, enables to utilize best practices, to make much better data-driven decisions, and optimize the use of the resources. Next slide, please. So today we work with two main industries. One is the farming operations themselves, where we enable them to do optimized farming operations, improve all their practices, better manage their inputs, their machinery, their labor, and all of that. But we work also with the food and beverage companies to enable them to better manage their communication with the growers, better have field and grower visibility on what's actually happening in the operations, provide them predictability to their supply chain, to what they're going to get at the end of the season, both in terms of quality and in terms of quantity, so they can better streamline their operations. And we do a lot around sustainability and traceability, be able to certify the growers, understand exactly which standards they're meeting, and give full traceability from the field through all the chain until the factory of what happens, and trace back to the source. We're today working in over 35 countries and over 50 different crops. So in terms of clients, we work with different types of clients, but in terms of food and beverage companies, we work with the likes of Nestle, Starbucks, General Mills, and companies like that. In agriculture, we work both with the large growers themselves, but also with the input providers. So one of our partners that I think could be relevant here is HZPC, which is one of the largest potato seed developers in the world, where we actually developed a system to provide the support and decision support system to potato growers worldwide, where growers can receive the application and receive all the recommendations from their seed developer throughout the season. So this can work on both types of clients. Next, please. So in terms of company, we raised until today over $40 million, but we have many of our investors are impact investors. So we also measured on the impact we're able to drive across our operations and with the growers that we work with. So we measure that based on their certification, better based on the footprint on the environment. We're doing a lot of work around carbon emission tracking to be able to do that, but all the KPIs that we track, in addition to the regular financial KPIs, are all related to impact. So in terms of what are the pain points that we're trying to solve, one is the ability to connect to the growers, if we're talking about the buyers or companies that have large operations, to have full visibility into the actual field operations, be able to support the growers. The agronomic team can give advice through the system, but can have all the information. Of course, everything is GIS based, so you have the ability to have very, very high resolution information from every point of your field. And you're also able to track the actual operations and the actual performance of each and every plot. The other thing is the ability, once you have all the information, you're able to give yield estimation and be able to understand what we'll get at the end of the season, and whether there are different measures I need to take throughout the season because I'm expecting shortages in supply, variations in supply times, and things like that. And the last thing is around sustainability practices and the ability to enforce and monitor sustainability practices, go over everything related to certification, manage all the certification activities inside the system, and see where I comply, where I don't comply, and where I need to improve the practices. And of course, everything around traceability, so I know exactly what happened when, and I can trace back whenever I find something that didn't go well. So in terms of the value proposition, we provide an all-in-one, flexible, holistic, and integrative platform for supply chain management, which increases the predictability, enables to collaborate with the farmers and provide best practices and production guidelines, reduce the operational cost, estimate yields better, guarantee sustainable practices, and streamline the entire operations. So in terms of how our system works, our system is comprised of three main layers. One is all the data inputs, and the data is provided from three main sources of data. One is through a mobile application that enables to collect any type of data that you want. Any data comes with a location stamp, user stamp, and timestamp to be able to later analyze everything geographically. But you can, of course, add pictures or text to each one of the measurements you take, and then you can also see all the information in the web. The second source of information is remote sensing, is the ability to get data from satellites, from drones, from virtual weather stations. So we have a partnership with IBM Weather to provide all our clients with actual weather data and 15-day forecast in any place on Earth. And each one of our clients receive the new satellite image every 5 days with the different indexes and also the specific indexes, for example, for potatoes. So we have not only the regular NDVI and NDWI, but additional indexes that are specifically for potatoes, as an example. And as I said, we've done until today over 70 different integrations with sensors, irrigation controllers, weather stations, machinery companies. So we have a partnership with John Deere to integrate all the data from the machines to the system. So that the idea is to be able to bring all the data into one place. And once you have all the data in one place, you're able to run any cross-data analysis, any model you can put in the system for the system to generate automatically reports, alerts, and recommendations based on all these predefined rules and models that you put in the system. So this is just an example of the integrations. I'll go fast just to be sensible of the time. This is just the last slide of how we structure our solution. So we have a solution that we call supply chain management or farm to factory. And the idea is that the first model is being able to do the farming optimization, which is actually what we do also when we work with the growers directly, but being able to help manage all the agronomic aspects of the growing cycle, either for the growers for themselves or for the buyer or the consultant that supports the growers. Also able to follow the cost of production, supply predictability, and everything around post-harvest traceability. And the second offering is around the impact and sustainability. Now, if you can go back, just it is about the impact, and I'll finish by here. And here, the two main things we give is a system to be able to provide all needed to do the certification process, and a lot we do around carbon footprint, the ability to track the baseline, define the carbon emission tracking, carbon sequestration, and being able to define the balance, and also generate credits where relevant. I'll stop here just to be sensitive of the time, and if there are any questions, I'll be super happy to answer.
Thank you for understanding the time constraints. That was super interesting. We have two questions for you. The first one is, you specifically mentioned one of your biggest customers is related to the potato industry. Given the fact it's Idaho's top crop along with onions, can you please share what are some of the things that how that customer is using you specifically, so perhaps the folks on the call can learn as well?
So first of all, potato is one of our four main crops and where we put most of our efforts with. We have a partnership with HCPC where we developed a decision support system specifically for potatoes that enables to gather all the data, but also all the know-how from a lot of years of experience that HCP has to provide decision support system like a home killing model, a nitrogen model, a lot of different models that are specific to potatoes. And this is available and implemented worldwide and also in the US. So today we're trying to market this in the US, but there's specific product for potatoes that can be demoed and can be shown whenever there's interest from this field.
Got it. Thank you. And second question is, right now, who do you find you're displacing when you're selling into new customers? And by the way, $40 million raised is so impressive. So clearly there's a lot of traction and a lot of logos and brands that we recognize. So who are you currently displacing from a non-ag tech perspective? In other words, are there certain tools that you're finding people using, and that is a good signal that you may be better?
So the two types of customers are the farmers themselves, and the second is the buyers. Okay, and what we do there, we developed an entire suite of solution for food and beverage companies or ag buyers or even consultants in some of the case of how they can support the growers on one side, but also be able to leverage the information from the growers to optimize their downstream operations. So, for example, have traceability to understand exactly where this came from and manage all the post-harvest logistics until it gets to the factory, including everything related to that. And things related to integrating to ERP, to the grower's ERP system.
Enterprise Resource Planning.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, because once you're able to connect the agronomic data with the financial data, you're able to really understand the performance of each plot and which plot is.
So you're getting visibility into your entire value chain.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Amit, with AgriTask. And with that, I want to welcome my good friend, Rabbi Mendelschitz, to the stage. Rabbi.
Hey, Don. Thank you so much for bringing me on. It's such a beauty to be part of the team here.
Indeed. So you were one of the first friends I made in Idaho. You also made me go to synagogue for the first time in 40 years. So you're a very powerful man. But besides our relationship, could you please tell us about Kosher Idaho, Chabad in Idaho, and why you chose to participate in this?
Hey, great. Sure. Well, first I want to tell you about Farmer Jack. So Farmer Jack in Idaho, makes a trip to Israel. He heads off to Israel and, he's traveling around and visiting. And somebody tells him, you got to come up north to the Galilee, and you got to meet another farmer, Kobe. So he says, sure, head up north. He comes to Farmer Kobe. Farmer Kobe is saying shalom, takes him around and shows him his farm. He's got 1 dunam, a hectare. Farmer Jack is from Idaho, looking around, inspecting. Wow, beautiful. And he comments to Kobe. He says, back in Idaho, I raise, 25,000 head of cattle. And when I wake up in the morning, I get on my tractor and I drive, the sun can set and I'm still driving on my tractor. I haven't reached the end of my property. And Kobe looks at him and says, I once also had that tractor like that. So obviously, when it comes to Israel and Idaho, there are some differences. But what Israel doesn't have in geographic space, it makes up for in innovation. And that's the beauty of this conference. That's the beauty of this showcase, where we have 2 great economies coming together and collaborating. Idaho, with all of its natural resources, with all of its open space and tremendous potential in that field. And then Israel, which is such a tiny country and forced to innovate, the mother of invention, right? And has really done a phenomenal job in bringing technology into the sphere. It's just beautiful to see them get together. And I hope this is just the beginning of a tremendous collaboration. So I want to talk a little bit, though, about my experience in the field, because even though I'm a rabbi and, as Don said, I schlepped him into shul, brought him into the synagogue. But I also spend time out on the road and in fact, have a deep relationship with many producers, growers, food manufacturers throughout the state of Idaho. And that's primarily because I happen to be the only rabbi in Idaho involved in kosher food certification. And as the director of Idaho Kosher, I travel throughout the state, and I'm involved in a lot of kosher supervision for food production. And so, of course, and that is sometimes to make sure it's also kosher. So I've witnessed firsthand collaboration already between Idaho and Israeli companies. For example, in Israel, there's a lot of dairy production, but it's on a much smaller scale. In Idaho, the farms are much, much larger, and so they're able to produce here in a week or two what might be produced in Israel in many, many months. And so, for example, there's a company here that produces milk protein concentrate that's shipped off to Israel, and it's a joint venture. It's a beautiful collaboration between an Israeli company, one of the biggest dairy companies in Israel, together with an Idaho company that farmers, producers, as well as the manufacturer. So that's beautiful to see that. And in fact, I remember at another plant that I was touring, I was looking at the milk silos, and I noticed that the technology that was measuring the statistical data within that silo, lactose content and protein, fats, whatever it might be, was a technology based out of Israel. So there already is technology in Israel that's active in Idaho, as we know. And so this is an opportunity for us to build upon that and to introduce new technologies into the field. So what I want to say as the rabbi here in Boise, Idaho, to everybody, I want to extend a welcome, obviously, and I want to tell you, if you're an Idaho farmer and you're a little apprehensive and wondering what's the culture like, what's the business culture like, what are the people like, what do they speak, etc., feel free to reach out to a fellow American here in Boise, and we'll connect you with the right people in Israel, of course. And to the Israelis that are coming to visit Idaho, that are considering partnering with Idaho companies, Bruchim Habayim. And obviously, if you would like kosher food, like to spend Shabbat, would like to meet people in the Jewish community and the local Israelis, please reach out. We have a warm, welcoming community, and everybody would be excited to assist you in any way possible. I want to give my blessings to this effort, and I want to just point out that, after all, I'm a rabbi, I got to say something sacred, right? So I want to point out that in the Torah, in the Jewish Bible, when it talks about gratitude that we should have for food, it tells us that we should thank Almighty God, but it says that we should bless the land. You should thank God on the land. And of course, if you look in the Bible, it's replete with all these different messages about, coming to the special land flowing with milk and honey, etc. Israel, of course, is the promised land in many ways, especially for the good food. So when you think about that for a second, it teaches us something, especially in this day and age, that we are anchored to the land. But at the same time, you could have land and it could not be productive whatsoever. It really depends on human effort in order to ensure that land is productive. And so when we plow the field, the blessing of rain from God allows us to reap the benefits of the produce. And now we have something in the 21st century that's an additional plowing of the field. And that's the beautiful technology that we see developing here. Agtech is that synthesis of heaven and earth. And so I really am touched at this opportunity to be part of this. And I extend my blessings to everybody that your endeavors should all be met with tremendous success. Thank you.
Rabbi, two things. Number one, working with you, obviously, we've gotten to know each other, but working in this event, I saw something I actually don't see in many entrepreneurs, believe it or not. You're an entrepreneur, obviously, because you established Chabad Jewish Center in Idaho. But many entrepreneurs in the startup world, even though they know conceptually you need grit and you need work ethic in order to succeed, you don't really see it that much. But I was so touched by seeing you work like that. In a couple of sentences, I wanted to get a sense from you to kosherize for the Idahoan farmers and professionals in agriculture, to kosherize their fields and their farms and their plants. tell us what they need to do very, very briefly, because I know it's a very complicated process. But what does it mean, and how can you help?
Well, food that grows from the ground in Idaho is inherently kosher. If it grows from the ground, it's typically kosher. So that's not going to be an issue. The problem is whether it's going to be kosher is going to be downstream, so to say, when it gets packaged, when it gets, potato growers don't have to worry about it, but packers, and then when you turn it into French fries, that's when you need to make sure there's no. So it's about, the common misconception about kosher is that the rabbi has to bless the food. That's nonsense. So let's debunk that myth straight up. Okay, the rabbi is not there to bless the food. The rabbi is there to ensure that there's no non-kosher ingredients that are cross-contaminating with the kosher ingredients. And equipment is an important part of the puzzle as well. So all equipment, food manufacturing equipment, etc., must be kosher. And so we need to make sure there's segregated lines if there's a non-kosher product and that the same company produces. And so it's a fairly complex system, but essentially what it boils down to is having the rabbi and the team of rabbis come and set it up kosher, and then do occasional audits to ensure that you're keeping those quality controls in place, that it remains kosher. More information at our website, idahokosher.com.
Thank you, Rabbi. And with that, we're going to move on to the next startup, and that is Cropx. So Cropx has been one of the early startups. Again, this has been a year-plus long process that we've been dealing with, and it is an honor to welcome them. They have some amazing soil sensing technology, in-field technology, and we have Matan Rahav from Cropx to tell us more about that. And Matan, you're on mute, but I'll let you unmute and take it away.
Thank you, Dan. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. So Cropx is an agricultural analytics company founded in Israel in 2015 with a sole vision to revolutionize and automate the farm and the decision-making process by mastering the insights of the soil. When we started our journey, we realized that despite hundreds of agtech startups in the space, farmers still remain blind to what happens inside their soils. And as a result, they irrigate and fertilize inaccurately and efficiently in a completely unsustainable manner. This is because most agtech startups focus on above ground data, like satellite imagery and drones, cameras, because that is data that is easier to obtain compared to soil data that requires using complicated, cumbersome, difficult to use soil sensors. But the above ground data lacks the ability to be predictive and preventive. When you rely solely on above ground data, you're always going to be one step too late. This is because by the time there are visible signs of stress that you can detect from an image that was taken from space, that means the damage has already been done. But if you monitor the soil in real time, we can be predictive, we can be preventive, knowing that the crop hasn't received what it needs before the crop does. And that is what Cropx is all about. But to do that, we had to develop our own soil sensing solutions because none of the existing solutions had what it takes to be scalable. So that's the first thing that we did. And we integrated that soil sensing solution with above ground data layers like topography and crop models so that we can provide actionable insights to optimize irrigation management. Then gradually with time, we've expanded to also cover nutrition management and crop protection management to establish a one-stop shop agronomic farm management system. When I mentioned that there were no other scalable soil sensing solutions in the market, this is what I mean. To the right, you can see some of the state-of-the-art sensors. They usually require using a separate modem, gateway, power source, cables running around the field, point-specific calibration, and bottom line, not relevant for farmers. These are solutions that are relevant to scientists, to technicians, but are too impractical and cumbersome for farmers. So instead, we've developed our own plug-and-play solution. You stick it into the soil, you scan the QR code, and you're done. You can forget about maintenance and calibration. The sensors transmit the data directly to the cloud with a SIM card. We can also offer solutions when there's no cellular signal by using Bluetooth. It's equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion battery that lasts over a year before you have to recharge it. And we have the only continuous real-time calibration using software solution. So how does it work? Our sensors collect soil data, temperature, moisture, and electrical conductivity at 2 or 3 depths, depending on the hardware model. So that is the one that you see in the image here is 8 and 18 inches. And then transmit the data directly to the cloud. We automatically integrate topography, crop models, weather data, satellite imagery. We have an entire team of remote sensing specialists that develop our own in-house image processing algorithms, optical and radar, users inputs, soil maps, hydraulic models, and everything gets crunched in the cloud together. Only once you have all of the different pieces of the puzzle come together in the cloud really allows us to provide actionable insights, recommendations that are crop specific, growth stage specific via the app that is available on Android and iOS and web. So Cropx collaborates with the entire ag food value chain, from crop insurance to agribusinesses, irrigation equipment, etc. And the value that we deliver to the end user, the farmer, is optimizing the agronomic decision-making process, which allows them to save on water, fertilizers, manual labor, energy, all of that while maximizing the yield potential, and all of that while becoming more environmentally sustainable. So we've held trials and validations across many different crop types and geographies. And this is just one example out of many. This is a 50-hectare pivot irrigated alfalfa field in Arizona, where we ran a 1-year experiment dividing it into 20 equal size pizza slices. And in half of them, we assumed control of the irrigation system. And in the other half, we let the farmer do his own thing, aka farmer's standard practice. And just by optimizing the amount per slice, we've managed to demonstrate a 10% yield increase with 40% less water. And we've had similar success with many different crop types. For example, you can see at the bottom, there's eggplants and lemons in Japan, and we've had validations with grapefruit in California and potatoes in Mexico, and more and more. Right, so we tackle many of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals just by maximizing the yield potential. We are helping agriculture become more productive and more competitive by optimizing the fertilizers and irrigation management. We are minimizing the risks of groundwater contamination, of soil degradation, surface runoff, and we're basically helping farmers make agriculture a more sustainable occupation. This is just one example out of many of the value that we deliver from a sustainable standpoint. So the amount of carbon, the greenhouse gas emissions that we've saved, the amount of water that we've saved are equivalent to a big United States city. So that is becoming substantial as we manage now millions of acres around the world. So we started selling in the United States in 2017. We rapidly expanded worldwide. We are now deployed in 47 countries, supporting 82 crop types. We have 10,000 systems, more than 10,000 systems deployed worldwide, which makes us the leading company in the world in terms of real-time in-soil data points, which allows us to develop now machine learning algorithms, deep neural networks, AI, that require huge amounts of soil data that no one else has. One of the main reasons why we've managed to expand so rapidly during COVID years, when travel was restricted and when all other projects had to stop all projects because these require their physical presence. So we've managed to continue sales as usual because of our do-it-yourself approach. The fact that our solution doesn't need to be handled or maintained by a technician or engineer. We've made 3 acquisitions in the past 2 years, and we're not through. The first was and each one of these acquisitions, by the way, added both commercial and technological capabilities. The first of Crop Matrix in the United States. They were a competitor that developed an irrigation management solution using a third-party sensor. With that acquisition, we've integrated 2 platforms into one powerful app, and we've added a well oil distribution channel of more than 150 dealers, providing services to more than 2,000 clients in the United States. Then we've made another acquisition in New Zealand of a company called Region, who had developed a solution for dairy effluent management, which allows us to expand to the dairy industry. And the third and last acquisition of Dacom in the Netherlands added the one final missing piece of the puzzle, which is disease and pest management features, basically the ability to let the user figure out when is good time to spray before the damage is done. So we are predicting the possibility of pests and diseases. These are just a few recent commercial highlights. These are all publicly available press releases that you can read about online. Just to name a few, we've partnered with Brenke, one of the the world's largest irrigation system manufacturers. I think that the third largest pivot manufacturers. We're helping them offer their users a more advanced irrigation systems that allows them to figure out when, where, and how much they should irrigate. We've partnered with NASA as part of their mission to tackle the global food security challenges. And we have a strategic collaboration with PepsiCo, where we are helping PepsiCo help their potato growers grow potato more sustainably. We've had tremendous success in Mexico, where we managed to demonstrate 25% water savings with 13% less greenhouse gas emissions and 9% less fertilizers. And then following that success, we've expanded to additional countries with PepsiCo together. We have an amazing team. You're going to have to trust me in this. We don't have time to go into every single one. I'll just say that we have all of the relevant expertise in-house to execute on our $1 billion vision of becoming the biggest farm management system. We have an entire team of remote sensing specialists, hardware engineers, software engineers, data scientists, agronomists, soil and water specialists, and crop specialists, disease and pest specialists, and more. And we're backed by a world-class syndicate of strategic partners and investors from the entire ag food value chain who are supporting us with vast expertise, industry knowledge. For example, we have Brainke, the irrigation system manufacturer, and Farm Agro, the Central America-based agribusiness, ICL, Israel's largest agrochemical company. We had some food processing like OSI, TO, CSS is Senegal's biggest sugarcane producer, managing more than 10,000 hectares. Bosch and Flex, the manufacturers, Sumitomo, so also trading, ag food VCs, data VCs, and everything we need to achieve success. Next slide, I think, is the last one. Yeah, so thank you so much for your attention and for listening. I am happy to take any questions.
Hi, thank you, Matan. Great presentation. I actually have a question. The DIY approach is amazing. It looks super simple. And I think beyond the data aggregated and the insights you have in the field, I think one of the biggest challenges with sensors are the maintenance or the data loss that happens often, and especially in rural areas. Do you have any insights about how much is saved every year, I guess, from this kind of, from a data loss or from any other obstacles or challenges that happen in the sensors field?
I can talk about that. Is a great question. I can talk about just that question for an hour, but I will do that in a minute. So yes, we've heard a lot of negative feedback from farmers all over the world who have tried using other hardware solutions and have given up because at the end of the day they wasted more time than saved on time.
Exactly.
It requires a lot of maintenance and calibration and installation, and they kept having to go to the field to check on the sensors and to calibrate, etc. And they realized that it's not helping them become more efficient, but maybe even the other way around. I can tell you from, I come from a background of soil and water sciences, and during my research years at the Faculty of Agriculture of the Hebrew University, I've played around with just about every type of soil sensing technology. So I myself calibrated sensors, connected them to a data logger, put in a solar panel, installed cables in the soil so it won't rip them out. And it took me months to calibrate and to get the systems in the ground. And after around 2 months, a family of rodents decided to move in and live in my data logger, nibbled all of the cables, and completely demolished my experiment. So this is why when I saw what Cropx was doing, I immediately fell in love with the solution, and I literally came here knocking on the door asking for a job 4.5 years ago. But yeah, the idea is that it requires zero maintenance, zero hassle, zero calibration. You can check, you can go to YouTube and type in Cropx installation, and you'll see for yourself that the installation process takes about 2 minutes. And the calibration, 2 minutes, and you plug and play, literally. But Interestingly, the calibration processes, which we have a patent for, is done with machine learning. So we identify the way the soil responds to the irrigation events, and we calibrate. We figure out what is the optimal management zone. So the minimum and maximum threshold for this specific crop type, for this specific soil. And we pop out alerts and notifications when they go above or below the desired thresholds. These minimum and maximum points are also customizable depending on the user's needs. So yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That was super interesting. Thank you.
My pleasure.
So thank you. Our next guest is Elad from DriftSense, and pretty sure Elad is very excited to be here. Hi, Elad.
Hey, Avi, how are you?
Thank you. Great, thank you.
So first of all, thank you so much to all the Idahoan crowd and Israeli one. Good afternoon and good morning. Excited to be here. Thank you, Avi and Dan and the organizers for this privilege. Thank you so much. So my name is Elad. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DriftSense. Together with me on my team, and just a quick note in parentheses. So I was quite surprised. It's new to me that Israel, in means of capita, have the more PhDs in here. So I'm happy to be among some of them. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DriftSense. I hold a PhD in chemistry and material science. With me on my team, we have Dr. Pavel Kunin. He's our chief technology officer. Pavel holds a PhD in geophysics and atmospherical sciences, more than 15 years in the Israeli IIBR. Our chief operational officer, Dr. Ran Shauli. Ran was the former advisor of the chief of the Israeli Plant Protection and Inspection Services. So we're a trio of in a simplified manner, chemistry, atmospherical sciences, and environmental regulations. So as we all know, and of course the growers and in our audience have the dominant practical knowledge of the increased risks on our doorsteps. Growing pest and resistant puts growers at risk. More than 40 new resistant herb species in 20 years. Rising prices of the pesticide doubled down in the last 2 years. In the last 15 years, we see an increase of more than 30%, tenfold rise in herbicide amounts, and of course, the drift from a grower to grower, from plot to plot, threatens the crops, beehives, and natural resources. So the main goals in DriftSense, and before I go into this, the average of loss of pesticide application or spraying application is around 75%. In the median. We're talking about crop dusters, we're talking about boom sprays, we're talking about drones. The median here is around 75% of these chemicals which are not hitting the target. Our main goals is curbing herb and pest resistance, of course, exactly like antibiotics and germs, preventing the farmer-to-farmer conflicts, of course, cutting down the expenses of spraying application, and preserving the healthy, natural, and agricultural environment. On the left-hand side of the screen, I want to start with what we do, what exactly is being inserted into our software-only solution, and what the growers have at the end of the day. So I want to have a small analogy to a Jenga tower. I have a 6-year-old boy at home, and we love playing Jenga, the brick tower, when you take out the bricks, and the one that loses if the Jenga tower collapses. So the main factors that actually affect the drift, affect the pesticide application in a higher level, of course, number one is the meteorology, right? The temperature, the humidity, the wind direction, and speed. We are modeling this in a very, very high resolution in a per plot meteorology, but that's not the only thing, right? This is only one of the cubes, one of the bricks in the precision ag Jenga tower, so to speak. We have a lot of very good companies that are forecasting weather. But this is only one of the niches that are being inserted as data into our platform. The second one, second and third, I would say, is the chemical properties and regulatory data. Putting the hat of a chemist for a second, we have materials that in 25 Celsius degrees are vaporizing or diminishing in X rate. And if we go just 2 notches up for 27, that might be 10X in a non-linear manner. So we need to understand how these chemicals are being dispersed from the moment they are getting out of the nozzle and until they hit the target. Of course, the regulatory data, the labels, a lot of growers that we're speaking with have a lot of burden of if they can spray, what happens if they cannot spray after a certain time period from the moment they already started to spray. What are they doing? Obviously, not shutting down their engine, and this causes a lot of problems. And of course, the last but not least is the spraying gear. So let's say we're all the same growers, identical growers. We live maybe 1 mile or a half a mile one from another, and we're spraying with the same material. Is that enough? Obviously not. We need to understand that the outcomes of the spraying accuracy between one to another must be very accurate, must be differentiated. It means that if I'm spraying from a drone and my neighbor is spraying from a boom sprayer or a crop duster, the outcomes are very, very different one from another. So all of these data sets are being inserted into two segments of technology, proprietary technology, that we are developing. One are dispersion models. Again, what is happening when the chemicals, the pesticides are going out of the nozzles until they hit the target. These are getting inserted back into our proprietary machine learning algorithms as new inputs. Why? Again, because there are no two identical growers in this world, and we need to encapsulate the DNA of the grower, the DNA of the plot, to understand exactly what is the most accurate, most optimum timing for this grower based on his constraints to apply the pesticide. We tailor fit the timings to be highly effective and highly efficient specifically for him. So we are coming from a very orthogonal point of view. There's magnificent companies here that we've shown that we've seen moments ago in means of identifying the pests, knowing on a leaf level where they are and exactly that they need to be sprayed. We are exactly coming from in a differentiated manner from the 180 view. It means that you know that you need to spray, you want to spray, you have this prescription from your PCA or CCA, and now what? We need to understand what is the best timing, but not based on the pathogen on your leaf. If it's a prophylactic manner, if it's pre-harvest, post-harvest, or in season, based on your constraints, we would tell you exactly what would be the best timing for you, what would be the optimum, so you would hit what you want to hit. If it's the pest, if it's the herb, or whatever it may be, you know that you are being very accurate and you're not drifting away, whether if it's on your own plots or your neighbor's plots. So we have successfully validated in field trials last year here in northern of Israel. We're tomatoes for industry in an R&D farms. All of the statisticians here in the agriculture experts and all the reports and the spraying and the all the development that has been done by independent experts. This was backed by the Israel Innovation Authority that granted us the funds to have this real field trials. At the bottom line, software only based, only on the cloud, no hardware, no maintenance, just cloud, just software. We can see that we have 30% more in means of accuracy and coverage, 60% less in means of driftings. And of course, one of the KPIs that we can do in a homogeneous manner, it means that it was very, very, very it was covered in a very accurate manner. Yes, in means of U.S. markets, so we have conducted 8 case studies, retrospectively analysis. It was conducted in Pennsylvania and Michigan and Indiana and Ohio, and we're already having 5 pilots ready to go in California, but also in the Midwest. So due to the fact that we are providing software, a cloud-based only solution, we are very fast and tangibles in mean of return of investment to the growers. We're talking about 4 times faster than competitors that are giving the same type of or nearby type of decision support system. We're about half a price of per acre, dollar per acre in commodities. And we can provide it again without and no need for implementation, no need of deployment in the field, a software only solution, due to the fact that we are again coming in a very differentiated manner, taking a look on what's happening to the materials in the air, in the field, and not coming from the pest side. So how can we help? So we're taking a look on a few segments here that we can actually help the grower. We're talking about roughly 27% up in earned before interest and tax. So if you can see the right-hand side of the screen, revenue per acre increase of at least 5% in revenues. It does not mean that we increase the per acre revenue in means of yield. No, it means that we keep your yield safe. We keep it in the manner that you want to have whatever you're having per acre until the end of the season, and we make sure that you're hitting exactly what you want to hit, not less, and of course not more. It brings up again the problems of resistance of this pest. Left hand side, upper side of the screen, we're talking about the cost of doing business per acre. So we decreased at least 20% in regulation and compliance burden. Again, we've been talking about the data sets that are being inserted into our machine learning algorithms, all the burden of instruction, all the burdens of labels and liability, and so on and so forth is something that is being inserted into our solution. Cost of goods, of course, so we decreased at least 30% of the spray materials and 15% in labor, which is very costly, as we know nowadays. Backed by science, world-renowned experts in their field. So upper left, Professor Dorita Edelstein from the Hebrew University and IIBR. She's a top-notch expert in atmospherical sciences. She with us in our advisory team. Backing us up. Right-hand side, our agronomist Uri Adler with 40 years of experience worldwide, both in open field and in greenhouses. Bottom left, Professor Douglas Duhan from Ohio State University in our advisory, phytopathologist, state weed scientist, backing us all along the way to understand the problems that growers have and how can we help. And bottom right side, John Fentis, from the Environmental Regulation Wing of the Californian District Attorneys Association, 30 years of experience there. They with us almost from day one, backing us in means of understanding the exact problems that growers have. Yep. So what do we actually want from you? So we are coming from a route of what is the problem, not the solution that we have. We want to understand in means of pest management, in means of logistics, in means of applying the pesticides and the agrochemicals that you're using, what keeps you up at night. We want to provide the best solution possible for growers by growers, because if we know that we can maintain into our solution the best features, the best solution that we can provide, we know that it will be successful. So this is what we're actually looking from you. I'll be happy to have questions, of course.
Hey, thank you a lot. That was awesome. And I know you've been patient with our timeline, so thank you. And thank you for helping promoting this event. I have a couple of questions. The first is, it's nice to see different companies in different stages. You're a little earlier stage. In an ideal scenario, what can an Idahoan farmer, what are the criteria for a farmer to be in your pilot program as it relates to Idaho, given the climate challenges we know of?
Yes, thank you, Dan, for the questions. So anything at all. It means that if you wish us to have analysis and a retrospective analysis and a predictive analysis of the spring scheduling, to take a look on the scheduling based on him as a DNA of a plot. So what he's spraying with, what's the local meteorological conditions there, the material that he's using, what happened maybe if he had a drift, what happened if he's not being very accurate on his pesticide spraying application, anything at all that would benefit us, and of course, beforehand, the grower, we would be happy to do so.
And do you have so I don't know much about pesticides, but I'm imagining there are a lot of suppliers, a lot of chemical companies. Do you guys work with all different, anything that can be sprayed? Is that kind of if you can spray it, you can use it kind of mentality, just so that people know if they're compatible?
Yes, correct. So we're quite agnostic. So our go-to-market is obviously specialty crops, but again, due to the fact that we are modeling this in a I would say a military grade to civilian grade, we can do anything. It means we're not taking a look on the side of the pest. So if you have a pathogen and you need to spray, that's great. We've seen a lot of other great companies doing so. We're coming from a perspective of you need to spray. This is you as a grower. You're spraying these materials. We will understand exactly what's happening from when it's out of the nozzle and until it hits your target. So very agnostic, very open mind.
Got it. Awesome. Thank you very much, and congrats on your early success. Okay, up next is an awesome company named NDrip. NDrip uses gravity to create a irrigation system that requires nothing other than the power of planet Earth. So with that, I want to welcome Uli from NDrip to take it away. Okay, looks like Uli has been dropped. We're going to switch over to Benjamin from GroundWorks. This is our first time. You got to excuse us. This is basically the production level of a volunteer army with a Oscar producer named Anka Trifan, who's an unbelievable producer. She's been able to keep a bunch of us in line.
That's okay. Most independent films are better than the full budget ones.
Yes, well said. We're an independent film. We have taken no sponsors, so we are just doing this as best we can. Welcome, Benjamin. Because I was not prepared, I'm going to let you take it away.
I'm with GroundWorkBio Ag. We are a mycorrhizae company, and just like many of the other presenters before us, we are a very direct to the crop type product. Many of the other very great technologies are things that happen to help better enhance yields. We are a product that actually increases yields. And we're a mycorrhizal inoculant for mainstream agriculture. Next slide. We are the first cost-effective mycorrhizal solution for mainstream agriculture. We covered 1 million acres in 2021. We've had 3 times revenue growth since 2020. 60 employees in Israel as well as here in the USA. 12 established markets in Brazil, US, Canada, Ukraine, and India. And we keep on expanding that footprint even as we speak right now. The markets are about $8.5 billion and $5.6 billion in these markets that we feel that we can enter into the picture. Climate change is something that is really happening today in today's society. What mycorrhizae does is help with better abiotic stress conditions, water stress conditions, disease pressure, and fertility issues that happen in the soil as a result of abiotic conditions. What is mycorrhizae? Mycorrhizae is the center of the rhizosphere ecosystem. It creates a symbiosis between the mycorrhizae is a symbiosis between that and the plant roots. Almost 90% of the plants grown in the world, effectively create this symbiosis. This is an endomycorrhizae, which is based for most herbaceous plants. There are things called ectomycorrhizae that create symbiosis with trees. However, we have done enough research and looked at things to look at crops, grains, cereals, potatoes, onions, carrots, and cannabis. And many of the mycorrhizae that are here today, they are in the soils. They are in the soils of Idaho. However, many of those native strains and species within those fields have been depleted through modern agricultural techniques, cultivation, chemicals, just an overall misuse of, not misuse, but just typical use of the land through normal farming practices that destroy the environment that mycorrhizae thrive in. How does mycorrhizae work? It creates a connection with the plant roots, the spores, and the hyphae of the mycorrhizae extend the root system of whatever plant it creates a symbiosis with. And these are some of the pictures of the symbiosis under microscope. Next slide, please. And here are some more pictures of the mycorrhizae creating that symbiosis. Where they have the vesicles. The mycorrhizae's main portion for living is the plant living. So it has vesicles or nutrient stores to provide for that plant in order for the plant to provide sugars back to the mycorrhizae in a complete symbiotic relationship. when you look at the proven benefits, it has better water uptake and transport, nutrient uptake and transport. Mycorrhiza produces glomalin, which helps with better soil aggregation, better disease resistance. It also creates a chemical defense system for the plant. And it also creates better growth and biomass for what's growing above the ground. Increased productivity. We've seen about an 8 to 32% yield increase on corn on studies that we've done in Brazil, a 5 to 22% yield increase on soybeans. And it's very efficient at nutrient uptake and create in that symbiosis with the host plant. In particular, phosphorus helps create enzymes to better solubilize phosphorus that's in the soil. So typically most soil tests that are taken on a extracted value. However, there is much more phosphorus in the soil that is there than due to standard soil tests. It's just that as of right now, we don't have a way to measure that amount to be able to use by the plant. However, mycorrhizae help in increasing that insoluble phosphorus become readily available for the plant. Increased resilience to drought. Again, it creates a further extension of the root system. The hyphae of the mycorrhizae can reach areas within the soil that the root hairs cannot. Very small microscopic areas where there is still moisture within the soil. And again, we can look at a decrease of water required, which again goes back to some areas of the state or country that are using irrigation, where water is the most expensive input that they are putting with that plant due to the area that they're in. And again, it helps with acidity of the soil, flooding also, because it does create a kind of a barrier with the root system. The roots themselves aren't taking up of the water the mycorrhizae is. And then also biotic stress, such as soil-borne pathogens. Soil-borne pathogens able to get through the root system a lot easier than through the mycorrhizae fungus, which has a better defense mechanism against soil-borne diseases. Again, we go back to the more efficient phosphorus uptake. Phosphorus peak phosphorus is expected by 2030. There's going to be some pretty high prices of phosphorus fertilizer, even right now and even in the future. They are contaminants within the water system. If we can reduce the amount of phosphorus needed because we can use what is actually in the soil that currently right now that we're not able to capitalize on, we can look at a potential savings about 30 to 50% of the cost of the phosphorus application. And that's a potential global savings of about $10 billion. The other thing with some other individuals that's talking about is carbon sequestration. Mycorrhiza is the only known microorganism that produces glomalin, which is a stable carbon sink within the soil system. Glomalin contains 40% carbon, and an estimated 8% of all carbon photosynthesized by mycorrhizal plants ends up as glomalin, persistent in the soil for decades. The potential sequestration is about 5.5 million tons when Rutella is applied to 100 million acres, an additional value of 400 million in carbon credits. Plants photosynthesize carbon from the air, but mycorrhizae sequester it. They're immense and uncounted. Why has there not been massive global adoption for mycorrhizae? A lot of it has been production techniques, the production cycle, product concentration, formulation, and production expertise. Where GroundWork has done that is we've taken those 5 issues and became very efficient at production, the cost, concentration, the quality, and also the expertise. Basically, we've had 30 years of research. We get about 167,000 viable probabilities per gram. It's easy to apply. And we have a rich gene bank and species of strain. It's not just one species of mycorrhizae that we use in our system. We have multitude of products based on use. We have found through producers that we want to do whatever is the easiest for them for the application to be applied to the seed or the crop. We're also looking at other biology in conjunction with the mycorrhizae itself. When we talk about the queen of biologicals, it acts as a hub for all the other biology in the soil, creating chemical signals with other bacteria, other microorganisms, and we are currently working on improving products in conjunction with the mycorrhizae. We've had proven results. There's just a difference of some soybeans. Next slide. Just a difference in plant growth, and then the abiotic stress. So you can see the difference between the fields from the treated to the non-treated in somewhat of a drought condition. Next slide. There's some wheat differences in the roots, and then also soybean. That's a pretty good comparison showing the difference. We can expect for the cost for the producer about a 3 times ROI based on the yields and the price of the product. And we're built for a global impact. Next slide. And we're looking at growing this market even further than the U.S. and being worldwide. And as you can see, there's a very large market for this type of. And then also we are in the hemp and cannabis market with a product called Dinomyco. And basically we're going to try to produce more food, more carbon sequestered, cleaner water and soil, and better drought resistance. And so basically we are just bringing mycorrhizae to mainstream agriculture and has a global scale and a big impact. Thanks.
Thank you, Benjamin. A quick question about a few last slides about the drought years. So a year ago and 2 years ago were probably one of the extreme ones. Do you have any recent data? You showed that the ROI is 3 times, but do you have any recent data, especially in, you mentioned Ohio, but I saw Brazil as an example, but anywhere in the States that how your solution basically saved, on expenses and others?
I currently do not have anything as of right now. I started in January of this year. However, we do have probably close to about 40 to 50 studies out there right now. At different things. I know last year here in the United States, there were some drought issues that happened within the majority of the Corn Belt area of the region. However, yields were not affected nearly as much as what they thought due to those water stress issues. Again, right now in the U.S., it's a very small foothold, and so I don't really have a lot of data within the United States showing those drought issues. For example, that one picture of the soybeans was in Brazil.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. And have a great day. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you, Anka. I think you can bring Eli on now. There he is. Eli is from Trellis. He's had a very busy day, very busy week. I'm grateful that he was able to make it here. Eli, I'll let you take it away.
All right. So, hi, everyone. My name is Eli Englard. Trellis is a food chain optimization platform. We work with entities across the food value chain, mostly food processors, traders, supply chain operators, to help them mitigate risk and leverage opportunities across the value chain, and especially optimize their profit and global resources. A few words about the team. We've seen the problems in agtech, mostly from a very holistic point of view throughout the years. We brought people from AI, data background, financial background, environmental background, to really understand and model the value chain with data so we can provide real-time intelligence to companies to really help them optimize their business. The problem that we're solving is essentially the fact that companies are really struggling to manage the entire supply chain. And we found out that there is huge amount of loss just because of the combination of external risk, which could be coming from Mother Nature, yields, supply chain operations, sales, so something that's happening in the outside world, and how it's integrated with siloed decisions that are happening across the sales and operation cycle of large enterprises. And companies always trying to understand what's happening in the outside and what is the best course of action for them. And we found out that the data infrastructure that they use for planning and for managing the operations is very limited. It's always looking into the past, okay, into the history, and it's also disconnected from the outside world. And this is why we built Trellis. We integrate data from across the value chain, starting from weather and environment, yield data, crowd data, downstream to the logistics and operations of supply chain and processing, as well as the financial aspects of operating a food and agriculture business, of contractual terms, market data, trading information, futures. And by bringing all this data into our vertical cloud, we essentially help companies build a totally connected value chain that they can now operate at much greater efficiency. And this helps them improve their margins. It helps them reduce waste, reduce wasted resources, manage all the different resources across the value chain, from labor, processing capacities, exports, and so on, with much greater accuracies. We've been working since we started commercializing the platform in 2019. We've been working with some top producers globally. Right now, optimizing supply and demand of about $3 billion of goods. We're working in the wine and beverage industry with top producers in the US, in California, Oregon, Washington State, in Australia, New Zealand, and Latin America. We also work with processed food operators, like processed tomatoes, potatoes, and we're fanning out to other segments like coffee and other premium commodities. And we've experienced 3x growth since we started commercializing in gross merchandise value, in tons, in users, and in revenue. And the power of our platform is essentially to really understand what's going on across the value chain, from forecasting the supply side of the business, yields, quality, timing of harvest, optimizing the chain operations of food processing, and understanding what's happening on the market side, how much people are going to buy, how much wine people are going to drink in about 2 years. So these are the type of problems that we solve to turn this entire system from a supply chain to a demand chain. So we understand what is the market going to consume, and then helping companies to plan their entire cycle based on that information with our decision support tools. So just a few examples of what our platform is doing, starting with automated AI forecast that continuously improving forecast accuracy of the supply side of the business. That's helping companies to manage their multiple supply and demand functions, but mostly how much they need to source from multiple channels, so to manage their supplier contracts, or how much they can export deliver to local market. That's one aspect. Second aspect is to use these forecasts to manage and allocate resources across the supply chain. So especially freight, shipping, capacities for production, and so on. We also predict quality because quality is a big driver for profit. Different quality attributes and how they affect the end product, the end of the food product. So we predict things like sugar content, viscosity, solids versus water, acidity, color, anything that can affect the profit or the allocation to a food product. And we bring levels of intelligence that really take observations of plants, and we marry them together with environmental conditions for companies to really understand what drives yield and quality so they can optimize their raw ingredients. Then Trellis chains help companies optimize the supply chain operations, so allocate resources around trucking, labor, capacities in factories, inventory. So that's all part of Trellis chain. And Trellis Market really helps companies understand their most strategic supply and demand functions, if they're going to have missed revenue because of product availability or quality issues, if they have opportunities to sell more, if they're long in supply, managing pricing strategies and so on, so that they can really have this deep competitive edge compared to the competition. So that's Trellis Market. We're targeting a very big market that needs real AI machine learning driven solutions, focusing right now on agriculture and food enterprises, and specifically food and beverage manufacturers. So this is a huge market for us. And we're also starting to leverage our forecasts for other industries like supply chain operators, insurance, and ag financing, because we have such strong databases that is growing with each and every customer. I would say that our big mission is to optimize huge amount of loss of nutritious food, of land, of global resources. And our strategy to do it is by partnering with large food and beverage companies that really affect or produce 98% of everything we eat and drink. So we build our product specifically for these very complex, very large scale supply chains, and by that we're increasing our impact. Happy to open it up for questions.
Thank you, Eli. So I know this has been a busy week. I guess first and foremost, how's the company doing, and is there any news you can share about it?
Oh, we're growing, and you know, after 2 years of COVID, establishing our U.S. office as well as our office in Australia and New Zealand, and some local resources in Europe. Because we work in industries, we focus on specific segments of the food and beverage industry. So, for example, in the wine industry,
yes,
we already work with
Idaho wine is growing actually very nicely.
Yeah, I mean, so Idaho, so because of climate change, Idaho is gonna probably become a more prominent wine growing region. So if people, you know, want to decide what to grow in the future, probably wine would be a good choice. But one of our strategies is to really build a global network that can help us provide global insights that we can, you know, deliver back to the industry. So, for example, what happened since COVID is that the Chinese market started boycotting Australian wine, and Australian wine is now oversupplied, you know, very, very much. And there are shortages in other regions in the world, including California, that suffered, you know, two very, very bad season vintages, 2020 and 2021. So bringing those insights back to the industry on a global scale helps us build a new layer of intelligence and deliver that to companies to really help them manage risk on a more strategic level. And this is why we need to invest a lot in expanding globally. So farming is very local, but at the same time, you know, we are looking into, you know, building this AI on a global scale.
Got it. And since you cover so much of the value chain, how do you make progress in getting to the local food markets? Maybe it's a farmer's market. Maybe it's in Idaho, we have Albertsons, which has, you know, dozens of brands, I think 24, at least a dozen brands under them, but it's, they own Safeway and other major grocers. How do you make strides to get into those markets downstream to the consumer?
So one of the magical things about our technology is that we are able to integrate with a big player, for example, take Safeway or a producer, and then by integrating their data, bringing also external data that can paint the full picture of what's happening with their suppliers and the effect on our customer supply chain and how it affects, downstream, issues with demand and sales. Piggyback or integrate data from their legacy data systems and kind of build our intelligent cloud on top of that.
It's interesting you mentioned Safeway, since Safeway is one of the brands under Albertsons. So thank you. It sounds like almost the future of maybe grocery delivery one day, truly farm to table. Okay, thank you very much, Eli. And now we're going to bring it home with the last presentation. Maya Avari Shoshani from the Byrd Foundation has been patiently waiting. The Byrd Foundation does incredible work and hands out grants to farmers and agriculture professionals all over the country. They don't just work with Israeli companies. And I will let her share what the Byrd Foundation does, and then I'll come back to close us out. Take it away, Maya.
Thank you so much. So after you've heard so many great, interesting companies and technologies coming from Israel, I want to tell you about something very interesting that might make it easier for you to work with them if you're interested. So my name is Maya Avari Shoshani. I am the West Coast Director for the Byrd Foundation. Byrd is an acronym for Binational Industrial R&D Fund. We are a joint R&D fund that was established by the US and the Israeli governments back in the 70s. The goal was to promote joint collaboration between the countries, and we're doing it by providing funding. We fund projects between American and Israeli companies. We use that endowment that we received from the US government and from the Israeli government to fund R&D in any technology. Everything we do is for the mutual benefit of Israel and the US. A lot of what we do is facilitate introductions. We are kind of like matchmakers. So I urge you to contact me. Reach out to me. If you are not familiar with Israeli companies or potential partners, we can make introductions. We do that on the Israeli side and on the American side. And we would love to have more entities, companies, research institutes, farmers from Idaho participate in our program. So this is our model. We can potentially fund up to 50% of the R&D cost of a joint project between an Idaho company and an Israeli partner. We will fund 50% of the R&D expenses, up to $1 million per project. And in some cases, for exceptional proposals, we can fund up to $1.5 million. It is called a conditional matching grant or a matching fund. Since we cover only 50%, the partners need to complete the project and bring it to commercialization. The most important thing is that it's non-dilutive. It means that we don't take any IP rights or equity in the project. We share the risks. And if the project is successful and reaches sales, we do ask for repayment of the grant as royalties from the sales. And if not, it becomes a grant. The budget is divided according to the work share between the companies or the partners. We are agnostic to sector, so you can see we invest in any technology besides defense. We have many agriculture technologies, and we also see them in our energy sector, in water energy nexus, in energy efficiency. And you just heard today a company talking, the Blue-White Robotics company with a drone technology, who has won our project through the Homeland Security program. So we see a lot of relevant companies that are using our funding to work with the US. We can go to the next slide. And we will skip this. Okay, so we have two general call for proposals each year, every March and September. We're currently in the March cycle, still with awaiting decisions in June. So it's a pretty rapid process. The decisions are made by our Board of Governors, which have people from the two governments, from NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, State Department, Treasury, and on the Israeli side, the Israeli Innovation Authority, the Israeli Chief Scientist, and the similar government entities. We can fund any technology, including agriculture technology, in this call for proposals. But we have 2 more programs that are relevant. The next cycle will be in September, so it's perfect timing, and we have just enough time to find you a partner. So it's a great time to start talking now. We can go to the next slide that will show the next call for proposals for Byrd Energy. This call can fund renewables, energy efficiency, water, energy nexus, advanced manufacturing. So also projects that are relevant for agriculture can fit there. This program follows similar rules and procedures, only the funding comes from the Department of Energy, the Israeli Ministry of Energy, and the Israeli Innovation Authority. The next cycle is in June 30. So you have many, many options. The other call for proposals in the next slide is for the Homeland Security, less relevant here, but I just put it because this is something that was relevant for blue-white robotics. So a lot of companies reach out to us also through that program if it might be relevant to any of you. This is funded by the DHS and the Israeli Ministry of Public Security. How does this work? We have reviewers that come from NIST and from the Israeli Innovation Authority. They're looking for innovative projects. So if you are a farmer that is looking to collaborate with an innovative company that can work, but it has to be innovative and risky technologies, projects. They look for the synergy between the partners, the market opportunity, and the potential for commercialization. So the projects are reviewed by the reviewers, external reviewers, based on these criteria. We can go to the next slide. So of course, why Byrd? Because of the funding, non-dilutive funding, up to $1 million have helped the partners. We also know that companies really appreciate this partnership because it accelerates time to market. We share the risks. We don't have an upside. And there's also the stamp of approval. This process, the review by the reviewers, is like due diligence that we do for the partners, so they appreciate it very much. And there's also a press release coming out. We can see that in the next slide. For example, on the website for DOE, mentioning the names of the projects that they awarded. So companies really appreciate this, and they come to us even if they don't need the funding, just for the recognition. We can go to the next slide. So here is the press release for blue-white robotics. We can move to the next slide. We look at other parameters and for success, not just repayments. We look also on the nation and state benefits. So we can see job creation, companies that open offices in the US and in Israel. A lot of it helps to raise capital, merger and acquisition, export. So we have benefits directly to the companies and the partners with, of course, the funding and the time to market, but also on the national level. So we are very happy that our activity is generating benefits for the US and Israel. We can skip to the next slide. So as I said, we have 4 options for you. You can, if you're interested in working with an Israeli company and would like to try and win our competitive process for the funding, you can either submit an executive summary that is a short, non-binding document already with your partner. So you need to talk to us beforehand to if you need help finding a partner. either in March or in September. If you're interested in the other sector-specific programs, the Homeland Security is in April, so just past the energy programs coming up in June, the end of June, so there's time. I would recommend to talk to me if it's energy-related. Really, let's do it now, because June 30 is coming up, or September, but I'd be happy to talk to all of you. So reach out. Our website is www.byrdf.com, and I believe I have it in one of the next slides. We're going to jump here. So you can see my email, mayav@byrdf.com. You can connect on LinkedIn, send an email, reach out through the website. I'd be very happy to answer questions and help you find a partner. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. That was very informative. And I just realized Byrd is an acronym, Binational
Industrial R&D.
R&D. Thank you very much. And many programs in Idaho, including energy work and other ag work, rely on government and grants in order to succeed. So thank you very much. With that, I'm going to close us out. Like a good Israeli event, we are 30 minutes late. That is very typical in Israel. Things don't run on time. I'm just so grateful. We had almost everybody show up. I don't know what happened with NDRIP. There were some technical difficulties, even though they had 3 people from the team at some point there. But thank you to GrowinIL, and in particular Cropx, Taranis, SeeTree, Mileutis, Blue White Robotics, Trellis, AgriTask, DriftSense, and GroundWorkBio Ag. And thank you so much to Governor Little for his message welcoming us. Thank you to Consul General Shlomi Kaufman. Thank you to Rabbi Mendel, Chabad, and Idaho Kosher. Thank you to Jay Larson and Moshe over the Idaho Tech Council. Thank you to Evie Meyer, who's been my co-organizer. He's been awesome. He's running a startup and a successful one at that, so it's really hard to find time, and I'm so grateful for his time. He's actually in Israel right now. And thank you to Adi Waxman, who's been helpful on the team. And finally, last but not least, Anka Trefan, who's from Trefan Events, who's an incredible event producer who's been able to really own this virtual landscape that we're all in today and do a really good job producing events doing so. I know for a fact, since my last startup was in events, and I can tell you she is one of the best. Finally, I want to, from my heart, thank Rick Whately from AMG Idaho. Without him, this wouldn't have been as successful. He blessed this event by sharing it with his network. He took a gamble on us, and I'm really happy that he was able to trust us enough to share it with the leadership in Idaho agriculture team, the alumni, and everybody else that's tuned in. Thank you if you shared on LinkedIn. This has been a completely volunteer effort. And again, I'm grateful to every presenting startup and every co-organizer and promoter, especially Rick Whately for the 3rd time, but not enough times. This will be available on our website at idahoisraelconference.com, a full recording of this. And with that, we wish you have a very good week, good night, or good afternoon, wherever you are. Take care.